Okay, so let's dig into our first kind of iteration, and that's a while loop. I do want to show a sample of while loop kind of visually here on the screen, and that is this pile of what kind of looks like snakes. It's not snakes, it's actually a bunch of wires, and then when I click this, it plays it, and it's an iteration. It continues to go. It's like a while true function, and while it's playing, it just continues to reset. So it loops back to the beginning, and it continues to play until I hit the pause button. And you can see that pause button here. And this is an example of a while loop. So while loops execute a body of statements continually, as long as the Boolean expression that controls entry into the while loop continues to be true. So it runs while true and then ends while false. The keyword is while. It's followed by a Boolean expression within parentheses, and after that Boolean expression comes the body of the loop. It can be a single statement or a block of statements surrounded by curly braces. A definite loop means the programmer knows exactly the number of iterations. You can use a while loop for that purpose. And an indefinite loop means you're not really sure how many times it's going to run. Let's talk about definite loops first. Definite loops have a loop control variable. That variable determines how many times the loop is going to run. So in our example here on the screen, our loop control variable is 11. On like line 4 on this code, we set the loop control variable to 1, and then as long as the loop control variable is less than 11, which is our limit, we're going to print the loop control variable. After it prints, we're going to add 1 to the loop control variable. So we'll effectively print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. When you arrive at 11, 11 is not less than 11, and so the loop exits. This is a very basic loop that displays the integers 1 through 10. You can see the flow chart here and how that works. An infinite loop, on the other hand, is a loop that doesn't stop running. So now that you understand a definite loop, like a loop with a certain amount of iterations, we can also make an infinite loop. Now these are usually errors. When you're running like a game or something, you might want an infinite loop, but generally speaking, an infinite loop is not to be written intentionally. It's a loop that never ends. And if you look at our loop example here, while 4 is greater than 2, how long will 4 be greater than 2? Well, forever. This could be a result from a mistake in the while loop, but in this particular infinite loop, it's going to print hello forever until you stop it. And usually if you hit Control or C, Control and C, or Control break, it'll exit that loop. Here's a nice example of a properly constructed while loop that says hello twice. So you have the loop control variable. It outputs the loop control counter was within the braces, and when it gets to 3, it exits. We print hello twice. So let's look at some code for while loops. I have this code here, and you can see that I have a user entry, and the final limit is 3, and then we're taking input from the user, and we say please enter an integer no higher than 3, and then we ask the user for his input, and while the user entry is greater than limit, we're going to say the number you entered was too high, please enter an integer no higher than 3, and we ask the user again to do that. So let's go ahead and run this particular program. This is going to be enter small value. So Java enter small value, and I'm going to say 8, I'm going to say 5, I'm going to say 2, and you correctly enter 2. So this is an example of a way we can use a loop to control input. We're going to get more into that later, but I wanted to show an example of a while loop in code. We're going to end the recording here.